I greet you all, our dear viewers, on this fine Saturday morning. This is Okot Olaa, your host for today, at the Focus on Parliament show, where we dissect current affairs as they occur in our national parliament. Today, the case in issue and the topic in issue is that we are discussing the role of Parliament in checking executive corruption. We have had a pretty dramatic week in terms of executive corruption, a lot of accusations left and right, a court case, a minister arrested, which is a very interesting week in terms of that topic. And today, I am here together with two great panelists, Honorable Moses Alepe of the Great Chekwii constituency, and another seasoned politician, Honorable Sylvia Rwabogo of Kabarole. Thank you all, and you're most welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, just to remind you of the words of Honorable Benjamin Odoki as he was judging the case famously known as Sehad versus AG, where he stated that the arms of government, the judiciary, the parliament, established in Chapter 6 of the Constitution, and the executive, established in Chapter 7, are like three stones that hold a pot together, that pot being our country. Today, we aim to dissect on the role of Parliament in checking executive corruption. Thank you very much. And on to the discussion. I would love to start with my Honorable Sylvia Rwabogo right here. What is your general take of the last 1 week, given the interesting events that occurred?
Well, we welcome you, our viewers, and thank you so much, Civic Space and Okot Olaa, for giving me this opportunity to be here to discuss something about Parliament. It's been quite dramatic week, actually, as you say, on how Parliament can check corruption in government, in the executive, especially in the arm of government that is the executive. First of all, we need to appreciate what Parliament is and does. Its role is to oversee the work of government, but of which it is an arm. So it is like for you to check your hair if your hair is well combed. So Parliament is an arm of government, but still it is there to oversee. Parliament holds government accountable for everything, because all budgets are passed by the Parliament and they have to follow up on their oversight role. They have to follow up the government investment in different areas, departments, agencies of government, and other authorities, especially the local government authorities or local administrative units. So this makes the Parliament on top of things. But when we come to the democracy of the three arms of government, and we have the president above the executive, we need an independent executive. For it to be monitored and maybe checked by Parliament, it needs to be executive. But what we see here is a mixture of things where we have members of Parliament at the same time appointed ministers. So on one side, to the executive, they report to the president. And on one arm, they are members of Parliament, so they are under the speaker. So that makes it a bit difficult. If we had an independent executive, independent legislature, the way it is supposed to be, the separation of powers, if it's done well, then I believe that Parliament has the capacity and will be able to check what is done by the executive. What has happened recently, I would say, is possibly because of that. If I have done something, I can sweep it under the carpet, because when I come to Parliament, I am answerable to the Speaker. Depends on how I handle the Speaker. That's why you see some gifts coming into the Speaker, and some members of Parliament who might be vocal about it. So that means all of them will now connive to sweep corruption under the carpet, when actually they're supposed to be checking it. So I think it is like, unless we separate the institutions of government, that's when we'll really have answerable institutions, because the executive will be answerable to the president and the legislature to the speaker, who is again answerable to the president.
Thank you very much, Honorable Sylvia, who I suggest that perhaps ministers should not be MPs, if I get you right.
That's what
and MPs should not be ministers in return. On to Honorable Moses, who I'm excited to hear from. You come from Karamoja, a region that is very much in the center of the current case, where we have Honorable Chitutu Goreti being arrested over corruption, but a lot of other issues, including iron sheets. And not just to take anything away from Karamoja. Karamoja on its own has had a lot of issues. We had famine last year, cattle rustling, and a lot of these things that have been coming. As a leader from Chekwii constituency, what do you have to say about everything? Thank you.
Yeah, good morning, and thanks, Mr. Olaa, for hosting me this morning. And it's a pleasure being here again in this big space. Yeah, I think what I can say, as Honorable Sylvia said, the week has been dramatic and regarding issues of corruption. You know, this is something that came up in light over 3 weeks ago.
Yes.
And it is getting more and more interesting in the sense that it is peaking because, you know, this week there was an arrest of one of the perpetrators of the iron sheet scandal.
Alleged perpetrators.
Alleged perpetrators
Yes.
of the iron sheet scandal.
Yes.
Possibly I have condemned that because I'm from the region, but I think it is alleged.
Yes.
Yeah. And from my observation of events,
Yeah.
I think it is getting more and more interesting. I've been following very closely this particular issue for obvious reasons that it concerns the people that I represent who were deprived of what they were supposed to rightfully theirs. But I think we're expecting a lot even today. Well,
Yes.
I don't know what is happening behind there, the curtains, but I think a lot will happen next week.
Yeah.
But that definitely comes because we all know that the implementing arm of government is actually the executive. Other than setting the policy, it is also involved in the execution of programs, while the other two arms, of course, play their roles, with the parliament playing the legislative role.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what I can say on this particular matter is when I saw that what is the role of parliament in actually checking the corruption of the executive, of course, that sounds because of the events that have just taken place. Of course, ideally, it should have been what's the role of parliament in checking the excesses of the executive.
Yes.
As we all know, there are provisions in the Constitution to establish those three arms of governments for the obvious reasons that you had mentioned.
Yes.
Because they have to play hand in hand to serve the people of this country,
Yes.
to serve the interests of this country. The provisions in the Constitution for the establishment of parliament are in place, and those provisions are even put in place other provisions on how ministers or the executive can be checked. If you look at the Constitution, there's a provision for censure of a minister in case of misconduct, in case of abuse of office, mismanagement, and similar incompetences, and of course others. So those provisions are there, and Parliament definitely has to play a role. And also, additionally, Parliament has provisions both in the Constitution for the establishment of the committees that will facilitate Parliament in its running.
Yes.
And some of these committees are accountability committees that particularly check on how the executive conducts itself in serving or providing services to the people of this country. Yeah. So what I can say is Parliament is supposed to deliver this particular role through the provisions in the Constitution.
Yeah.
And what are these provisions? If a minister doesn't conduct he or herself in the way that is expected, there's a provision for censure where Parliament can censure a minister, having defined the conduct and definitely evokes those provisions and make sure that a disapproval or a displeasure of the conduct of the minister is brought up through the processes that have been provided. And through those provisions, it puts check on the way the ministers are done. A case in point is this very current one of
Yes.
Honorable Kitutu.
Mm.
As aggrieved citizens of Uganda from that particular part of the country,
Yes.
we evoked that provision and we wrote a vote of no confidence
Okay.
on the leadership in the Ministry of Karamoja to the President,
Mm.
and also wrote to the Speaker.
This was after her arrest.
No, that was all before.
Yes.
That's what occasioned one,
Mm.
a letter which the President wrote to us
Okay.
as they concerned the MPs who addressed that particular issue, that the arms of governments that are charged with investigation have been triggered to start investigating. Then we also went ahead and petitioned the Speaker, who instituted an inquiry
Yes.
through the Committee on Presidential Affairs,
Yeah.
which is currently carrying out that investigation. And I think it's about to conclude, and they're in report writing. So soon that report will be there. So those are the illustrations on how actually these checks can be done.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, on accountability, there are committees that are charged with ensuring that the executive is accountable.
Yes.
It is definitely meant to be obliged to be responsible for their actions, for their decisions that they make. And these committees are established, and these are committees, accountability committees of PAC, accountability committees of government assurance, accountability committees COSASE, and accountability committees on local governments. So these are ways on how the executive can be checked.
Yes.
Yeah, by Parliament.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Parliament is playing its role.
Mm.
If I can use this particular case or other particular cases of corruption
Yes, please.
that have been highlighted.
Yes.
You know, what I think I would want to bring out that the actions of Parliament may not immediately yield what an average citizen would want.
Yes, please.
But it brings into light what actually is taking place,
Yeah.
or the wrongs that are being, or the excesses that are being done by the executive.
Mm.
So it rightfully plays the role, and I think it should be appreciated that even if it doesn't bite as people would wish it to be,
Yes.
it brings this into the light, and then the organs that are charged with the rest can take responsibility.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that educative opinion there. Right there, very good for our viewers also to know exactly how Parliament operates.
Yes.
A little bit into maybe a reality, drawing away from what is provided in terms of roles. Honorable Sylvia, the last time we had ministers censured, I believe, was 98 with Sam Kutesa, and later, 1 year later, with Honorable Jim Muwezi in 99. However, both bounced back eventually as ministers. So do you really think that Parliament still has the capacity to bite like the Parliament of the late 90s? Or is that a gone case?
I think we shouldn't really wait for the time when things are already done.
Yes, please.
And then we start that the blame game, and
Yes.
trying to look out for people and say who is accountable, we should censure. Before we censure people, what is the society that we are coming from?
Mm.
The society where we are coming from, this is where the root of corruption is starting from.
Mm.
It is starting from the grassroots.
Okay.
It's starting from us and the way we are bringing up our children. Because these people are not independent. They are part of the society. They are part of us. They are our children. They are our mothers and fathers. They are our friends.
Mm.
They are elected from among the people.
Yes,
so
please.
most likely, this is not starting from Parliament.
Mm.
It is something that is deeply rooted in the grassroots and in our community and the whole society. But what is important now is that if we really want to see Parliament supervising
Yes.
or overseeing the executive, we need to have an effective Parliament.
Yes, please.
How does it become effective in its work? First of all, they have to set the policies.
Mm.
We know that there are laws, we know that there are committees, like my colleague is saying here. But The reports, for example, reviewed what is reported, what has been uh, proposed. For example, what changes? We need to have an effective parliament by making sure that they handle the executive, and this is through equipping them with
Yes.
both information and lots of other things. But also, when we separate the two institutions,
Yes.
that would mean of course, that is in the interest of the people. It may not be in the interest of the executive and the head of the
Yes.
executive, or even the head of parliament. That would help us to have an effective parliament. How? How shall we have it effective? Because the two people will be supervising each other, overseeing the other.
Yeah.
Because you know that the parliament will still have to scrutinize the plans and budgets of the executive,
Yes.
and then approve them. And when you approve them, then you are independent. You'll be able to follow them and supervise what is going on, monitor in their oversight role, and then be able to report back as an independent person. But where we see these two people rubbing shoulders, like they sit together, they are just one and the same people, and you see how the gifts exchanged hands to other MPs who are not even members of executive, some of them. That means this is also corruption its way. So they try to silence them by doing that. They gag them. So once we separate them, then each of them will be pointing a finger at the other. What is the executive doing and what is the parliament doing? I think that will go a long way in achieving what we are looking for. We cannot completely blame these people. They come from amongst us. They are part of us. That means that is how the society itself is rotten.
Yeah.
Yeah. Most of these evils we are seeing today come from where we are coming from. But we haven't lost it all. There's still something that can be done. And this is not just one incident that is independent or that is in isolation.
Yeah.
There are many other incidents.
Yeah.
Now, when you look at someone giving an example, giving an excuse and saying, the iron sheets just found themselves at my place.
Yes.
Did they walk? Of course not. Did someone send them without giving prior notice about what is coming? That shows they are trying to look at who can raise a finger or can raise an arm against them. And those are the people they try to gag by making sure they corrupt them. So once you are involved in the corruption, then you do not have the moral authority for you to fight it.
Yeah.
So we need to bring up upright children, first of all, in our societies, where we live and what we do even within our communities, before we even look up to the leaders. Ourselves, how are we doing? Because we are the ones who have produced these people. We are the ones who live with them. We live in similar communities. But I also think that Parliament has been relaxed too much on their role, especially the oversight role. You have approved a budget. You have allocated money to the office of the Prime Minister for procurement of iron sheets.
Yes.
And you're supposed to go back and know how was the money utilized. Did they, because you need to know whether there was physical accountability, not just the paper accountability that is received at Parliament.
Yeah.
You need to go there. That means they still lack of the oversight role in terms of how people follow up on these projects when they are being planned, when they are being implemented, and when they have already been implemented, and we need to monitor the results or if we have achieved the targets that were set.
Wow. Thank you very much. Honorable Sylvia talks about a cultural issue and the culture of corruption being much deeper, and that we should start to solve this problem from those around us and ourselves. Honorable Moses, I would like to, a few years ago, the president set up the anti-corruption unit at State House, and the motive behind that, he says, was that the units that are supposed to handle corruption institutionally, maybe, the courts, where, the issues around evidence take a lot of time, and then Parliament, which also has a role to call out on accountability in terms of probes, censures, etc., were not doing their best. Do you think that Parliament is well equipped, or it's just a backing dog in terms of checking executive corruption?
Yeah, thank you. Well, before I go to that, I wanted just to follow on what Honorable Sylvia said.
Yes, please.
She's fronting the argument that Those charged with representing us at the executive level shouldn't be members of parliament.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is actually a good argument. I can also give an example. You know, when they are completely independent of representation, you know, according to her, there's a thin line between the people who are now in the executive and the people who are backbenchers,
Yes.
because these are the same people. And that is true, because I want to give an example. If, for example, Honorable Numuganza, who was censured, was not a member of parliament, I'm sure she wouldn't have appeared in parliament again as a front bencher. But because she knew she has a right of being a member of parliament, even if she was thrown from being a member of she knew she would still be a member of that house. So this would really create independence. Another scenario is, for example, when you look at this Iron Sheet saga,
Yes.
some of the people who are supposed to be investigated, who are supposed to appear, for example, on the Parliamentary Committee on Presidential Affairs, are colleagues from Parliament. So you wouldn't expect them to be rehandled if they were completely outsiders. So it will definitely create some bit of compromise or conflict of interest. And you know, it can be quite difficult to handle someone who is part of you the way you would handle someone who is separate. So sometimes it's something that is worth looking at, and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Then when I come back to the issue of course, you also mentioned that possibly Parliament is very lax, which is related to the question you asked.
Yes, capacity.
Or possibly Parliament doesn't have the capacity.
Yes.
Actually, Parliament has the capacity because, one, I would wish to use the current Parliament, which I am part of,
Yes.
as a case. One, when reports, for example, audit reports are tabled in Parliament and they are presented to the committees that is responsible for that, they are able to find out actually what wrongs had been. And really the role of Parliament is to bring this to the light and give recommendations. Unfortunately, most of these recommendations again go back to the executive. Yes. Which you have again faulted. So sometimes they are quite very slow in taking action. Like in cases of censures, you have recommended that the minister should be censured, or the minister has been censured. So definitely it would mean that we don't have the credibility of that person holding that office. But then again, you have to throw to the president. Yes. Who is the appointing authority, who can decide to drop or not to drop. And there is no provision for you to push away that person. Yes. So in that way, it looks like you're merely backing and not acting. So maybe what we have to do is to look into the law and see whether we can, with time, put provisions where if Parliament recommends, let it be the end to such a situation, so that you don't again throw back to the executive. Yeah. Because like you're making things go round and round. Yes. The person is presented to you to the executive, you have told the executive the person is incompetent, the person has abused office, please drop them. They are not credible enough to hold this office. Yeah. But then the person, as he takes his own, it is him to make a decision, or had to make a decision whether the person is to be dropped out. So that one makes Parliament look like just a backing dog. However, yes, based on these recommendations of Parliament, yes, there are certain arms of government that can pick up some of these issues. Like, for example, if a parliamentary committee recommends that someone should be, for example, if you want to reach an end to embezzlement, you recommend for a forensic audit. Yes. And there is a arm of government, that is the Office of the Auditor General, which is the chief government auditor, that can carry out that, because it is actually certified to carry out an audit, and whatever report it comes, then actually that can trigger prosecution on that thing. So in that light, it is not a barking dog. It is just a process to an end into making accountability reach its logical conclusion.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, when you again recommend for the executive to take
Yeah.
action, it becomes like a barking dog.
Yeah.
So what is important is to look at areas where there are weaknesses, and we see how we can really plug them in.
Yes.
But otherwise, on some aspects, it is just a process to end the accountability circle, and other organs of government can actually take action, and this is done. So
Yeah.
that one is definitely possible.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you very much. There you have it, our dear viewers. Our parliamentarians always claim that many times you ask more of them than is actually their job description. And I think this has been a very educative session where our dear parliamentarians have taught us basically what the parliament and the role of parliament has to do. That's like Honorable Moses has been emphasizing. Sometimes parliament establishes a foundation for other platforms to then pick on. Thank you very much, and this brings us to a midpoint in this conversation. Stay tuned as we go forth. We shall be discussing further issues coming from Karamoja, but also how the public can be involved together with Parliament in checking executive corruption. Thank you very much, and continue listening on Civic Space TV.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create and publish digital media, or to access and use computers, other electronic devices and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
Welcome back, our dear viewers, to this session of Focus on Parliament. Today, I am discussing, together with my colleagues, how the Parliament can check executive corruption. We have all followed the affairs this week, where we have Honorable Minister in an unprecedented action being arrested. And it is a matter that has brought about a lot of national interest about how our resources are used. But the debate around that is bigger, it's older. We have followed the story of the iron sheets in Karamoja. And today, to dissect further into these details, is Honorable Moses Aleper with me, MP for the Great Chekwii constituency. For those who don't know, that's in Karamoja. And Honorable Sylvia Rwabogo, a seasoned politician and also former MP of Kabarole. And on to the topic straight, Honorable Moses, we have discussed a lot about the Parliament and what it can do, what it cannot do, how it supports other institutions. But you come from, biographically, Karamoja, and you represent the people of Karamoja. As people from other parts of the countries, we would like to know what is the feedback coming in from Karamoja from the beginning of this case. How are the people reacting? What are they saying? Are they happy with the government action? Are they happy with you, the parliamentarians? We would just like an insight, because we have a unique opportunity to have someone that represents thousands of Karimojong people. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Ola. Actually, I would like to say once we had okayed to put that type of intervention for Karamoja, because this was one of the interventions on disarmament. You know, the Karamoja has been dogged with a lot of insecurity.
Yeah.
And at one time, from 2009 up to
Yes.
around 2019,
Mm.
at least there was a lull and there was peace, relative
Yes.
peace in Karamoja.
Mm.
Then it again re-emerged. So we as leaders from Karamoja sought audience with His Excellency the President, and then we agreed on what should be, because the general view of Karamoja was let disarmament to be carried, because people had rearmed themselves
Mm.
and there was a lot of insecurity.
Mm.
So as a way of intervening, we thought actually that after disarming these young people, that's why there is now a popular word, Karachuna.
Mm.
Karachuna actually means young men,
Mm.
youthful men.
Okay.
So we thought we would maybe resettle them. They
Yeah.
would go to do some other livelihoods. That's why we thought of interventions of goats.
Yeah.
And we zeroed on goats because His Excellency actually advised us that why don't we get, you know, faster way of creating wealth?
Mm.
You know, instead of cows, get goats because they rapidly produce
Multiply, yes.
and multiply.
Mm.
So that's why we zeroed. So there was expectations.
Yes.
How were these expectations? They had already identified people through the district leaderships. So we knew who the beneficiaries were. The beneficiaries were expecting this to happen.
Mm.
And then in June last year,
Yeah.
2022, His Excellency the President launched that intervention of giving out goats to the people and then mabatis or iron sheets. So since the President had launched, and he categorically stated that in 2 weeks' time, that will be rolled out. So people have been expecting
Yes.
with a lot of anxiety
Mm.
since April. And of course, they were expecting a lot from us. In fact, they were asking us, when are our things coming?
These are the youthful boys.
Yeah, the beneficiaries.
Yeah.
And also the local leadership down there, because they were under pressure from the beneficiaries.
Yeah.
So we started engaging the Minister of Karamoja Affairs and an OPM of the Prime Minister. So there was a lot of expectations, and only to our dismay, early this year, we learned of what had happened. So that dashed definitely the hopes of the people, and they really focused on us to make sure that their voices, and like so many other things that have happened in the region.
Mm.
You know, there are a lot of interventions that have gone in vain.
Mm.
This they thought shouldn't again to be the same case.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of pressure to us and even government. So what I'm saying is the people there felt so betrayed.
Okay.
Because one, even in the first disarmament, where government had promised them that they would surely secure the whole of Karamoja from external aggression after they have been disarmed, that wasn't really fulfilled to the letter. So they felt that again, this is another promise that has gone in vain, that has not been fulfilled, and they were expected to have been the case like it has been. So the reaction, the people actually were very unhappy, and actually they are looking to what government is going to take, what action government is going to take to make sure that the people who are expecting to benefit from the thing actually benefit. So right now, there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of sometimes apathy with some people, because others actually have been given hope that this might be the case like it has been before. But with what has taken place, maybe now again it is creating more hope, expecting that a lot of action will be taken against those who will be done. And you know, the statements that have been made by government that no, we are going to recover these iron sheets, and definitely the beneficiaries will get.
Yeah, but we haven't heard about the goats.
Yeah, and also the goats.
Were the goats delivered? Or
In
if they
fact,
weren't, where are they? Nobody's talking about the goats.
Yeah, actually, the iron sheets have somehow overshadowed
the issue of the goats.
The issue of goats. And actually, I want to state here that the budget for goats was 25 billion, and the budget for iron sheets was only 8 billion. But you can imagine the 8 billion is actually overshadowing the 25 billion. But the investigations that are now going on are actually revealing so many things, and I may not be at liberty to talk some of these things.
Yes.
But what I know is the harms of government that are investigating. At least what I know is the parliamentary committee also will release its report.
Yeah.
And then also the other investigative arms will come up with different reports, because both items, both interventions have been investigated.
Yes.
So surely that this will come to light. It is only that, you know, the iron sheets involves very high profile people, while the goats will involve people we are yet to know. Of course, after this is unearthed, we shall definitely see. So what I really want to say is the people of Karamoja are really expecting a lot from this, because they are really put a lot of hopes in this particular intervention.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it is all up to government to make sure that this comes to the bottom. But as the leaders of Karamoja, we are making sure that that's why we sustained the noise. We sustained this in the press. We sustained this in the news. And we are really grateful to the media houses, because they gave us mileage. They gave us opportunity to appear in most of these media houses, and the story kept until where it has reached. But we really hope that the justice will be served to the people of Karamoja.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Honorable Moses. And indeed, as we go ahead, I'll get back to you on how the strategic problem of our country, or one of the strategic problems of our country being the issues that keep happening in Karamoja region. What is a sustained solution? And we'll get to that as we go forth. But coming to Dr. Sylvia, a lot of members of the public many times feel helpless about the political environment within the parliament, in terms of how parliament handles a lot of the corruption issues. A lot of probes went up in air. Many believe that there's a culture of bribery. So what do you have to say to a member of the public out there sitting in his sitting room in Kawempe with his family? How can they support to improve the culture of accountability? Do they have to vote better leaders? Do they have to advocate better? Yeah.
You know, people keep in the communities.
Yes.
A member of parliament in Uganda is really overloaded. First of all, they are so much on the ground doing the political mobilization, so that their eyes are not so much on what is happening at parliament. If you ask a member of parliament, an average member of parliament, I'm really sorry to say this. I am apologizing in advance, but that is what it is. I do not have to point at an individual. I think I will not be asked to point at an individual. Spends more time in the constituency.
Okay.
Because they think that is what will get them the votes. They are under pressure to not continue mobilizing in order to get votes. A period of 5 years is really a short time.
Okay.
There was a time there was a proposal for 7 years. That would have given people to settle maybe another 2 years, so that they give service for 5 years before they get running. Anytime someone comes to parliament in just 1 year, someone else is already on ground. So they are under pressure to go there and mobilize. And when they are there, other things are happening at parliament, and some things actually pass their eyes and their ears. But also we need to encourage members of parliament and appointed ministers. Some of them are even sitting members of parliament, that they should really promote political accountability, reduce those opportunities for corrupt tendencies, because they have the policies. The policies are there, but we need to see how they really stand on the side, and that they are overseeing what other people are doing, what the executive is doing. They need to wash their hands clean. But how does that happen? You wanted me to talk to the people in the community. First of all, there should be attitude change right from the beginning. Before someone comes, before someone comes through to parliament, can a community first vet these people? Can we look at, for example, in my area, can we look at all the 5 or 6 women who intend to contest? Look at their past record. How have they been? These records will inform us of all those things. Definitely, if someone in the last 10 years has not been clean, most likely this person will not be clean even at parliament, even when their appointed ministers. Unfortunately, politics takes the center stage.
Yes.
So it might not be the person who is clean. It might not be the best of them all. Sometimes it is the influence of money, which is also corruption.
Yes.
So they come by corruption. They have to be corrupt in order to get the resources to take back to their communities. And I think that pressure, unless that pressure goes down, unless the attitudes in the communities change of what they expect of their members of parliament, it is going to really be a very big problem, because people are under pressure to make sure they know they give back to the community. So imagine you have budgeted money, well knowing that these resources are for Karamoja. So when you get iron sheets on your doorstep, or when you find goats in your backyard, where do you think they are coming from? Or when someone calls you and says, come and pick your iron sheets, where do you think they are coming from? You have to first ask which budget allocated me those iron sheets. If you have scrutinized the budget very well without being busy on the ground trying to politic, that means you already know that the iron sheets in the budget for this year are not for your region, they are not for your district or constituency, they are for Karamoja. And therefore, that is where you come from, because that one will inform you what you're supposed to do next. You're supposed to be supervise how this budget, or have an oversight role on the budget and the implementations of the executive. So that is a tip already to you to know that now I have to rise up and say and make a tip that there is a problem here on the implementation of the budget by the executive. The legislature needs to lead by example.
Yes.
The legislature needs to lead by example. First of all, when you find these gifts coming to you, you have to question, where are they coming from? If someone gives you 5 million and there's a discussion that is coming forward, this is what happens at Parliament. I've been at Parliament. There is a very big discussion coming, and people are called on the side. Come to Kololo, come to some, I not want to point out places.
The homes.
And then people are given gifts. 5 million, I don't know, even more than that. But when you get this money, ask yourself, where is the ethical behavior? Where did it go? Ask yourself, why am I getting this money? Because you know that you're paid through the right sources, you're paid allowances, and you know where it comes from the government coffers to your account. So if you see any money coming on the side, where is it coming from? Most likely someone has been corrupt, got some resources, and wants to gag you all by sharing those resources, or maybe wants to influence your decision on something. Really, if you had people who have God's heart, who have a heart of God, whereby God is at the center of your life, you have to think about others and how they are surviving. I think we still lack those people. Just as I said, it goes back to the community where we are coming from. We have not done what we should have done, and we have done what we shouldn't have done. So we really have to go back to our society. We have to go back to our homes. We have to focus on the family and see what children we are bringing up, because it is there that we are harboring, that we are grooming corruption right from the family level, right from the community level, where small gifts are exchanging hands. When you get something that you are not expecting, you have to ask yourself, where is it coming from and for what purpose is it? If it is to compromise you, then that is the time for you to rise up and show yourself as an ethical person, as an upright person, as an honest leader. By the leadership code of conduct, you're supposed to be honest. Then exercise your powers, because as a member of parliament, you have the power to rise up against an issue and on the floor of parliament, and then these decisions are made there. And when they are made, they are given to the executive. Then we watch them to see if they are implementing whatever decisions are made by parliament.
Do you think that there's a disconnect between the roles of parliament as given in the constitution and what the public expects?
Yes,
from your experience?
So much so. The roles of a member of parliament are very very clear. I do not even have to know to repeat them here. But we are expected to do many other things that are outside the role of a member of parliament, and that's why they are under pressure. The pressure, for example, you go, there are so many churches, all of them are, I'm just giving an example of churches. Really, they are not only churches,
Barriers.
but other institutions, the barriers,
Yes.
people who are sick, people who need school fees, people who
need iron sheets.
Yeah, iron sheets, people who need goats, by the
Yeah.
way, because you might be tempted to get them from Karamoja and take them to Toro region, for example.
Yes.
So the pressures, the expectations of the people are putting members of parliament on pressure. The good thing is I'm not a sitting member of parliament, but I know these people are under pressure to deliver. They end up bringing items and other resources which are not meant for their regions. Because once people hear that in this year's budget, there's money to procure goats, everyone starts asking for a goat.
Yeah.
Everyone starts asking for mabati. You have used your own resources to contribute to fundraisings for the different institutions because they call you. You're going to launch my wedding. So if you're going to launch my wedding, the expectation is that you're going to put a biggest sum of money. You're going to be the chief fundraiser, for example.
Yes.
You're the chief mourner. All these things are created and putting a lot of pressure on our members of parliament, and we shall not be there and try to ask them to be accountable when actually we are demanding from them. So the first thing is for us within the grassroots to first stop this pressure. Because members of parliament will look for any way to make sure they bring what you're asking for.
Yes.
Because that's what you're asking for. Means you're not expecting the other services that government is giving you. In the health sector and the education sector, you're not appreciating them. So because of that, it comes back to the members of parliament. But we also must know that the economy, once the economy is not doing well, then people are restless.
Yes.
And that becomes an insecurity problem. So these restless people keep moving from department to another, from one individual to another.
Yes.
Even the people who are not elected leaders, trying to look for resources. And once the resources are not there, those people sometimes become even criminals. So all this whole situation is because the economy is also not doing well. There's no money anywhere. People are not doing so well.
Yes.
And definitely, if we do not invest in the institutions of government to make sure that the structures are operational, they are working, then these resources will keep going through and going to the wrong people when they are not actually deserved or desired there.
Well, thank you very much there on a very good discussion from Honorable Sylvia on the disconnect between the reality of Parliament, where there's a big disconnect between what the public expect of a parliamentarian and the pressures it puts on a lot of these MPs vis-a-vis actually the 4 roles that are placed on them by the Constitution. On to Honorable Moses. Many of us share compassion about the people of Karamoja. A lot of times we don't know what exactly is happening. I think there's an information or data gap for the rest of the people in the country. However, I can attest that there was a lot of anger about what happened with the iron sheets. Could you, and I believe this iron sheets issue is just a part of a wider problem, the strategic, what are the strategic solutions to the Karamoja problem, and how does this scandal play into that wider picture, in the hope that one day Karamoja will perhaps maybe even be the most developed part of Uganda, given its resources. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Olaa, again.
Yeah.
Maybe before I go to that, I just wanted also to mention something about the disconnect between the expectations of the people and our roles as legislators.
Yes.
But I want to give this an holistic approach.
Yeah.
You know what actually this country, the problem that we have in this country is there is civic incompetence.
Okay.
An average Ugandan doesn't know actually the roles or the leadership roles or the roles of leadership at various levels.
Yes.
So as a member of parliament, people don't know actually what our roles are. All right? The president, maybe they don't know what his role is. The LC5 chairperson, they don't know what their role is. The technical arm of government, they don't know their role.
People know.
No, they don't actually know.
They know, but they think you're privileged citizens in this country.
Why I think,
and therefore I should give back to the community.
Yeah, why I think so is if they knew the roles of the members of parliament is to legislate, is to represent them, is to appropriate, is to do an oversight role. They wouldn't definitely feel that you should be entitled to you paying their fees, you meeting their medical bills, you buying ambulances. They would know that there is a arm of government that provides that particular service.
No, but before you come to Parliament, Honorable Moses, with all due respect, people are campaigning and telling people what they are going to do. I have been one person who's been trying to avoid those promises because I know they are unachievable. But do I come through as a good MP? Of course not. Because someone will come and say, I'll bring an ambulance, I will, at a burial, I'll take 2 of the children from here. If you take 2 from here and 2 from another place, before you know you have 20. And then how can you afford to pay school fees for your own children and school fees for those? So it comes from you, members of Parliament, promising before you come. So you're like, as long as I go through, I will handle that one at a later stage. Before you realize it is already on your neck and you cannot do much.
You're right. You're right. I want to tell you that by the way, when I say the civic incompetence, it does not exclude me and you who want to come to Parliament. That is part of the people who are incompetent in terms of civic matters. But you know, according to the role of the Human Rights Commission, one of the key roles of the Human Rights Commission is actually to carry out civic education for the citizens of this country. And I think that's one role that they are not performing very well. If people knew this, definitely you would even know what message to tell to the people. But
we
this
one,
I think
civics was also a subject.
Let us also fund the Human Rights Commission to be able to do that. But if we just go there and we have unfunded priorities, and that is one of them, then that means it is also one of the root causes. We need to put the resources by allocation to where they are supposed to be used.
Right. So that's one emphasis I think we have to do. And I think let these institutions that are constitutional institutions or who are mandated by the Constitution play their roles. So this should be brought to light that civic incompetence is rife in this country and that thing should be done. This other one of promising ambulances, that's just firefighting. Okay? You know, sometimes...
And where they are not needed.
Yeah, let me tell you, when you are campaigning...
Did you say firefighting?
It is just firefighting. Firefighting in the sense that, you know, at that time, someone wants to achieve something.
Yes.
And sometimes you just want to give the message they want to hear. You know, I don't know whether you have been in such a situation. People tell you, we want ambulance.
No, I have not. But clearly...
No, among other things.
No, yeah, but the best thing is for you to say, okay, you know, if we believe in the bottom-up planning, I don't know whether it is still the case.
It is still.
If that is being demanded in the district development plan, for example, or your city development plan, wherever you're coming from, so it should be captured by the plans at the district level into their budgets. And that particular year, as a person who represents that district or a constituency in that district, or all of you as members of Parliament, carry the same and bring it on the planning level at Parliament, so that it is captured there, so that it goes through the right channels. The structures must work.
Yeah, so that's what we as the Parliament, the 11th Parliament, want to emphasize, that actually the institutions that are mandated to do something should be funded so that it helps. Because that is very key. It's a very key ingredient. That's why even these interventions that the government brings, people don't understand them. When you go to, I know in my place, the schools, the primary schools, the boreholes, people think they are government things. These are their structures. These are their investments. So that people get to understand when there is a primary school there, it belongs to them, not to government.
Yes.
Because it is them who identify the land, it is them who identify the need, and it is their children studying. So those services are theirs and that sort of thing. So that's what I thought.
Is it possible to win an election without promising?
Yes, you can promise. In fact,
I won one without promising, but definitely it also kind of leaves you without anything, to measure. There is no measure for what you can contribute. So the best is for you to really go into the plans, the planned activities, the rolling plans of the district, and look at what they intend to invest, and then promise those ones. When you come to Parliament, you have the capacity, you have the access to the ministries, permanent secretaries and ministers and others, and the president himself. Then you follow at that level. I think it works that way.
So those are things. But then I want to go to Karamoja. And I always keep talking this. Actually, the enemy to the development in Karamoja some people who really place themselves in positions that they are there for Karamoja. And one thing that I know is many people don't understand actually the dynamics in Karamoja. The situation is the people who come and plan security interventions in the place don't wholeheartedly, with whole honesty, involve Karamojans because they feel that we are also dishonest. For example, about disarmament, they strongly believe that Karamojong don't want to give out guns. And the people who support insecurity in Karamoja are leaders. So they are not definitely honest to you when you have a discussion with them. And once you are not honest to a discussion, you are building up an intervention. Definitely there will be a problem to it. So that's where we have a gap.
Yes.
If someone wants to come and intervene in the region, let them come as honest, be as honest as possible. And only look out for areas of weaknesses. If it is the leaders, like I always tell people that even if some of us are dishonest, I'm sure there are some who are honest. Using the tools, the apparatus, the structures that you have, you can get to know who is honest, and you don't involve them, and you eliminate them from the planning process, and involve those who are honest. So that is really one real bottleneck to the interventions in Karamoja. Now, that is why people take advantage, okay? Like this particular intervention of iron sheets and goats. The way it was structured, we use the local governments, both higher and lower local governments, to identify beneficiaries. Then the procurement is done by the ministry. And then the delivery of things should be immediately done once procured. I remember one of the issues we pointed out as leaders from Karamoja was, once these items are procured, just go and store them in Karamoja, so that the delivery point is not very far from the people who are supposed to benefit. So the interventions don't come, the planning is well structured.
Yes.
Then when it reaches implementation, just because there are some people who create an opaque arrangement between the leadership, the beneficiaries, and the service institution, it definitely makes all the things don't work out. So that is really the main issue. Even right now, the main issue in Karamoja is insecurity. Now, we as leaders have said, this intervention requires, it requires forceful disarmament, because people have failed to volunteer the guns. Now, you can't carry out forceful disarmament if there is no adequate manpower.
Yes.
There are no resources in terms of manpower. In fact, there are resources, financial resources were allocated by Parliament. There was a supplementary of 886 billion shillings. In fact, that money was even more than for Operation Shuja.
For disarmament?
Yes, because
Yes.
Operation Shuja had 65 billion. But for disarmament of Karamoja, it was 86 billion. But nothing has taken place. It was supposed to take 3 months, and that has not. So what am I saying? It is designed well, but the implementation is where we fall short. And
But
that's what
also,
becomes an issue in
Yes.
Karamoja.
Look at how politicians are supposed to be doing their work. It is eyes on, hands off. How do these resources, money, iron sheets, goats, and other resources, how do they find themselves into the hands of the politicians who are supposed to be hands-on? Meaning the power that they have over the departments that they
Technical
supervise,
people.
they are misusing their power. And we need to find a way of how we can check this power,
Yes.
so that they do not have to threaten the technical people to release what shouldn't come to their hands, so that the technical people are only supervised by the politicians in order for them to deliver to the other technical people on the ground.
Yeah.
I think that's how it's going to work.
Yeah. Thank
We
you
have
very
to check
much.
powers
I
everywhere.
think it has been a very rich discussion on political culture, but also very good insights from Honorable Moses about what is going on in Karamoja. Shocking amounts of money that have been allocated there. As we can see, I think the money for iron sheets is 1% of the disarmament money. if the other one was 800 billion, and this one is
86 billion shillings.
This one is 8 billion, and then there's GOT, hopefully to come out. All these issues will come out. I think it has been a very rich discussion. I really appreciate. Just a parting message for the viewers, which include the people, but also the parliamentarians, starting with you, Honorable Sylvia.
We need to reduce these opportunities which bring us close to being corrupt or breed corrupt tendencies. So that one way is to separate the powers of the parliament from the executive. Once the parliament has autonomy in terms of operation and others, it will they will be able to check the executive, and the executive being one arm that is above in a way on the other side, will also be able to supervise what is being done at Parliament and make sure that the policies are right. So this way we shall all be accountable for to Ugandans for what we're supposed to provide in terms of services from government.
Yeah. Thank you very much. There you have it, dear viewers. And Honorable Moses Aleper, just as we part, what message do you have for our viewers, but also what hope is there that for Karamoja rising out of this scandalous situation and all the things that have happened and are happening?
Yeah, well, on the role of Parliament in checking the excesses of the executive, I think Parliament is trying its best, but where we identify that it falls short of its ability to do the best, I think we should have another view or another way of looking at how these practices are supposed to be, how the accountability or the oversight role of Parliament is supposed to be conducted. If it involves legislative enactment, then I think the existing laws should be looked at. Like I want just to give an example. There was a storm in Parliament last week about the supplementary. And the issue is about the window of the 3% that that government can use to spend some money on under supplementary. And you know, the view of the House that time is possibly we should do an amendment to the Public Financial Management
to
Act,
increase,
so that that window is really plugged in, and some other way of spending the 3% is done. So if we feel there's any weakness in the laws, the existing legal frameworks, then we should really play a role. But I also still believe that civic competence on how corruption should be handled holistically by all organs of government and even by the public should be actually used. But on Karamoja, there is definitely hope in Karamoja. Let these scandals become learning lessons for us. They should be lessons for us in order to better the ways we can provide services to the people of Karamoja. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, our dear viewers. There you have it, a very deep discussion on Karamoja and political culture, but also in-depth analysis of how Parliament can check the government institution, the government executive, which is the one of the more central branches of government comparative to judiciary and legislature. That brings us to the end. It is my utmost honor to share a stage with Honorable Moses Aleper and Honorable Sylvia Rwabogo. I have been the enabler of this discussion, but this discussion goes on our social media. Go and comment your views. We would love to listen from you as well. Thank you and have a great Saturday.